institutions that were created to level the playing field from centuries of discrimination and the lack of access to knowledge. Oh, it's saying the battery's low?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Oh, you got me? You sure?
Yeah.
All right, because I have a battery pack too. Check. Is that the Apple plug or that's a okay, there you go. You good. I see the light came on.
Alhamdulillah.
When you look at the historical black university college coming out of the land grant colleges, trying to level the playing field of discrimination and barring particularly blacks as a result of the consequences of slavery from acquiring an education, these 5 necessities that the scholars identified, or durura, and by the way, that's why I'm going to have to come back and do something with you like on an ongoing basis. There's no reason that you as a college student could possibly graduate from a university and not know these 5. The first, hifz al-hayat, to preserve your soul. During the process of slavery, they said, in order to enslave people, make sure that you identify that blacks are not determined to have a soul. Is that important? You see, because if blacks don't have a soul, then if you kill your dog because the dog was misbehaving, you don't go to prison. Well, if you kill your enslaved African, you don't go to jail because they don't have a soul. Right? If they were another human being, they would have a soul. And if they have a soul, then there are consequences. But a cow, a dog, a sheep, or a slave, they don't have a soul. So you don't have to worry about them. So the Maqasid Sharia says, 1, that it is a necessity to preserve your soul. The second of the durura that they removed from the enslaved African, why they have to now make reparations through the institutions of HBCUs, is they said that the enslaved African, hifd al-nasl, we should preserve our lineage. They said that the enslaved African doesn't have the right to their lineage. The example. What's your name again, brother?
Eric.
Eric?
Yes, sir.
Eric, if you have a litter of kittens, once the kittens get to a certain age, do they belong to the mother cat or they belong to you?
Well, by most standards, they will belong to me.
They belong to you. So after they get to a certain age, you put a little thing out, kittens, free kittens. Anybody want a kitten? You can take them, right?
Right.
You don't ask the mother, well, what do you think about that family? Right?
Right.
Because the enslaved African is like that in this context. So they don't have the right to their lineage. Therefore, you can breed them just like you breed animals. So the Maqasid of Sharia says the second necessity is to preserve your lineage, hifd al-nasl. The third element, they said, in slavery, do not allow the enslaved African to be educated, to have an intellectual legacy. It is illegal to teach them how to read or write. You remember this? Because one of the necessities outlined in Maqasid al-Sharia is to preserve your intellect and your intellectual legacy, hifd al-aql. Now, I don't know, I have never met anywhere any record that says that Willie Lynch and the rest of these people ever studied Maqasid al-Sharia, but they sure know how to use it. The fourth, why these kinds of institutions have been created in order to produce out of you students who will go on to change the nature of society is hifd al-mal, to preserve your wealth. to be able to transfer wealth from one generation to another generation. Right now, since the Obama phenomenon, we're having conversations about the wealth gap. You will graduate, according to statistics, you will have the same job as, I don't want to give any name I give, they'll be talking about me if I give some name. You know what I'm talking about, one of the names, right? John Finkelstein, something, right? He's going to graduate from law school, you're going to graduate from law school. She's going to graduate as a doctor, and the other one's going to graduate as a doctor. But they're not going to pay you the same thing. But it's worse than that. Because it's not just that you won't make the same thing that they make. When you graduate, you'll have more debt than they have. Why? Because Grandma Finkelstein owned her home back in the 40s. And then the parents, they got the house from Grandma, and then when they saw that you were going off to law school or medical school or whatever, they said, we're going to pass that on from Grandma to you. So when you graduate, you'll be able to use that asset. Maybe when you graduate, you can use that money, you'll buy a condo. The Negro is going to be renting the condo because he has to live in the same neighborhood with his peer. You know what I'm saying? He has to drive the same kind of car as the other professionals drive and wear the same suit and the shoes and all that, right? Except that we're not starting out at the same place because of hundreds of years of being denied the opportunity to transfer wealth from one generation to the next. And so the fourth element is hifd al-mal, to preserve your wealth, your finances, to transfer wealth from one generation to the next. As a student, I mean, this is particularly, they're talking about college debt. You're not going to be in the same place. The challenge for you is different because of the history of slavery in America. And the fifth, durura, guess what it is? During the time of slavery, they outlawed something else.
To preserve your deen?
To preserve your deen. Come on over, man. I'm going to give you a hug or something, man. Alhamdulillah. I was worried at first. I said, 1 out of 5, I was hoping somebody had something. By the way, see the seek knowledge. These 5, what are they again? I don't say anything else today. It would have, except for what's the Hajjaj Yusuf or something. Hajjaj Yusuf. That was his name. That was a bad story. Messed me up. I'm not praying hard enough. What are the 5?
To preserve your soul.
To preserve your soul.
To preserve your lineage.
Preserve your lineage.
To preserve your intellect and intellectual legacy.
Legacy, yes. 4.
Wealth. To
Hifd al-mal, to preserve your wealth.
To preserve your deen.
Alhamdulillah. They made these 5 things illegal for enslaved Africans and their descendants. By the way, I try not to refer to people as slaves.
Right.
They're human beings who are in a state of slavery,
right, but
they're human beings. When you look at that legacy, this ought to allow you understanding as a Muslim maqasid al-Sharia what it is that you have to do as a student. What you have to do as a student. Now, in order to resolve the problem, blacks have always believed in America that education was the key to our salvation. Because the Quran reminds us those who know are not like those who don't know. That our knowledge should empower us to be able to make change. Now I know in a minute I'm going to be up against food, so I'm going to have to get into my business. Huh? Yeah, hey, alhamdulillah, whatever it is, man. But, I know the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, he remind you that when you have food, you give food priority. So, because some people, their minds might be down here instead of up here, you know what I'm saying? So, let's take just a quick look at what in this framework and why the HBCU is so important and why the student in an HBCU is so significant, because we already understand the values and principles as a Muslim in this context already by this introduction. First and foremost, I probably have to tell you, if you haven't figured out already, that I love Howard University. I love the network of historically black universities and colleges because of what they have provided as a counterweight to being robbed of these five. Probably let's talk about students as a force of social change. And I'm going to give you the name of a woman named Ella Baker. Anybody familiar with Ella Baker? Who's Ella Baker? What's Ella Baker's claim to fame? First, where'd she go to school? Come on, whip, shaker, Google out. Where Ella Baker go to school? Because Ella Baker organizes a meeting in April of 1960 of students that will lead to the creation of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committees, SNCC. It's telling that it's a woman who starts SNCC. Check her Google, what she said. What school did she go to? Come on now. Needless to say, she probably went to HBCU, right?
Yeah.
Where?
Howard?
Shaw.
Shaw University.
Shaw University. You have to get a faster process or something. Huh? Julian Bond said, a final SNCC legacy is the destruction of the psychological shackles which have kept black Southerners in physical and mental peonage. SNCC helped break those chains forever, and it demonstrated that ordinary men and women who, what kind of people? I'm asking you, what kind of people? Ordinary men and women, young and old, to perform extraordinary tasks. That's you. That's you. There is, I mentioned this in the khutbah that I gave back, I don't know when Sister Nisa had me come. January about, he's not even on my subject today, Carter G. Woodson. Carter G. Woodson, when he talks about the miseducation of the Negro. How many of you have read The Miseducation Negro? If you haven't, it's probably on PDF. Go out and read it. In fact, I would suggest to you that every February, read it. Since he's the father of Black History Month, every February, it's a small book. He was here in Washington. And because of the inability of conveying Hifd-al-Mal, the building that was the building of Carter G. Woodson's organization, sold. We lost the legacy of that, gone. But Dr. Woodson reminds us in this, the miseducation of the Negro. the analogy that I'll tell you about